I kind of faced a bit of imposter syndrome at school, going through 4th year and 5th year. I was like, I'm not going to get the grades. There's no point. Like, it's just kind of beating me down. But the minute I got the grades through, that's when I was like, do you know what? I am going to be a vet. And my mind kind of completely changed then. I kind of felt, do you know what? I can do this.
Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I have Luke McLean today with me, talking about the University of Glasgow and all things vet school. Hi Luke, how are you?
Hi May, how's things?
Good. How's it going? Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so my name's Luke. I'm 20 years old and I'm originally from a kind of rural town in Ayrshire in Scotland. And as May said, I go to the University of Glasgow and repping their branding today as well.
Nice. What year are you in?
So I'm just going into 4th year. So this is me kind of starting the last year of my clinical phase. But I'll probably talk about that later on when we come to the kind of course structure.
Cool, awesome. Okay, right, let's just jump right in. So the first section, we're going to talk about application routes and application process. Would you like to talk us through a little bit on like entry requirements, how you got in, and like why Glasgow?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I came straight from school to get into vet school. So I left school when I was 17 and I had to do the Scottish Highers and Advanced Highers to get into university. For me, I needed to get 4 A's and 1 B at Highers, including biology and chemistry. And then in my Advanced Highers, the requirements were BB. So that's for biology and chemistry as well. So that was kind of my kind of exam requirements. But kind of one thing in particular that kind of helped me get into university was the widening participation initiative at Glasgow. So that's kind of based towards students who kind of go to schools which kind of don't have a kind of high percentage of students kind of going into kind of vocational degrees such as kind of medicine, veterinary and dentistry and things like that. So it's called the REACH programme at Glasgow, and there might be kind of different kind of similar widening participations initiatives at university. So I kind of highly recommend people, if they're kind of eligible, to kind of look into it, because the things they offer you, it's kind of priceless for helping me get in anyway. They kind of helped me a lot with the kind of preparing for vet school, and I think that's something that there isn't a lot of. We're really grateful for people like you, May, who are kind of helping kind of people online to kind of get people, because I know when I studied, was studying to try and get in, it's difficult, and there isn't many resources kind of help people prep for interviews, and every single university has different interview processes, so you're just back to nothing when you just starting to apply for another interview. So the REACH programme, they do a lot and kind of helping with your personal statement, preparing you for the interview, but also giving you a good taster to what it's like at vet school. So when I was at school, I went to the vet school for a week and I got to take part in kind of practicals, speak to lecturers, so do all that thing. It was really living a student life for a week. So that kind of really kind of secured in my mind that this is the career and the university that I wanted to go to. And so I think kind of that's why Glasgow for me, just because of how much time and effort they kind of put into developing me as a kind of young student. And I think that really just sparked a bond from the start with university.
Did you ever compare it with Edinburgh? Because you're based up in Scotland.
Yeah, so Glasgow and Edinburgh was the two vet schools I applied for. And I went to Edinburgh and I got an interview for Edinburgh, but unfortunately didn't get an offer for Edinburgh. So Glasgow was my only offer, but it was the one I was kind of wanted to go to anyway. I think that it was weird to kind of see the different interview processes as well, because obviously at Edinburgh they have the multiple mini interviews, whereas Glasgow has a kind of different structured. So we've got this kind of same interview process that consists of 2 interviews. So one which is a kind of personal attributes, and that's the kind of first one, and a lot of people compare it to having tea with your granny. It's more a kind of chill, calm, like no one's out to get you or trip you up. It's just kind of talking about examples where you've shown teamwork, what your attitudes are like, and just kind of getting the kind of good feel for character that you are, and kind of talking about that kind of work-life balance, like what do you do outside of veterinary. There was no kind of veterinary context to that kind of first interview, I felt personally. It was kind of questions like, if you were to choose a celebrity to join at a dinner party, who would you go to? So just kind of questions like that to kind of set you at ease and not put too much pressure on you. And yeah, I think that was something I really liked about that kind of first interview. The second interview was more of a kind of professional interview, and that's where I think in my interview there was a kind of lecturer and a practicing vet on the interview panel, and that's where I was kind of questioned about my work experience. They picked things out my personal statement, things I'd saw, so like talking about like just procedures I've seen and things like that. And then more kind of veterinary knowledge and kind of current affairs. So I think a big thing at the time was kind of brachycephalic breeds and the kind of rise of them. And obviously that was 4 years ago. It's only doubled now. So I imagine that topic will still be ever so relevant now for any applicants. So that was, yeah, they can ask you loads of different things about kind of their thoughts on kind of animals in zoos and kind of badger culling, TB in cows or an alpaca. We don't know. But yeah, they can ask you kind of all different kind of relevant news. Even if you don't know the question, I think it's really important just to say that, oh, I don't know, I've not really read up about this or whatever, but it's something I'm willing to go and read up about. So don't be kind of put off by the interview, I think, and that specific interview. And then kind of lastly, on your interview day, do an ethics task. So it's kind of almost kind of your ethical reasoning. And I think the one main thing to remember from this is there's no right answer. So it's basically just kind of about you starting to kind of back up your reasoning and kind of what you would do in different situations. And it's really, I think, the interview is just to really kind of get a good gauge of you as a character before they kind of make an opinion on your offer. Did
you have to put in some like ethical frameworks, or they just want to know your opinion during that?
Yeah, so I think for me, I don't really think there's too much structure involved in it. Obviously, I don't know how it's marked and whatever, but I think for me, I kind of went down on the kind of 5 freedoms and kind of used that as my kind of ethical reasoning, because in school we were taught about the 5 freedoms, so I could kind of use that, but I think it's nothing really to worry about. It's kind of just kind of cases which a kind of client comes in to you, they might have no money, kind of what would you do in that situation, and it's really just about kind of weighing everything up and kind of do like what you would do, what other people would do, and things like that. So yeah, it's a really kind of, it can be quite a daunting task, and some people kind of enjoy it, some people don't. But for me, I thought it was all right. It wasn't too challenging. I think it is just kind of trying to utilize your kind of common sense.
That's good. And talking about work experience, how much work experience did you do, and like how much do they really want?
Yeah, so I think when I was applying, there was a kind of specific kind of number of kind of work experience you had to do. But I think since I've had my interviews, I think it's changed now, especially with COVID, and a lot of students kind of can't and are struggling to get EMS experience. But in my case, I done a lot of kind of work at the kind of kennels and kind of rescue and rehoming centres and stables. I was unable to get work experience at a kind of farm just because I didn't know anyone. I didn't kind of have access to get to a farm. That was something I kind of lacked, but I didn't let that hold me back. I just kind of explained that to the vet school and they completely understood that. I also managed to get a kind of day at an abattoir, which I know is very difficult for students to get. And I think that was something that was kind of opened my eyes to the profession as well. Important those kind of establishments are, and that was something that kind of they spoke about in my interview.
I see. So yes, all these work experiences not only just for yourself, but also like during interview they can pick up on it.
Yeah, definitely, and it's things to write about in your personal statement for sure.
Okay, so
and obviously I got some more in vet practices as well. I always forget that. But I always done like so many weeks, kind of done one night a week for a few years in a vet practice, just kind of seen like open surgery, they kind of call it. So it's just like general consults. But yeah, I'd highly recommend that, kind of creating a bond with a practice. Kind of while you're kind of doing your application, because it's really beneficial when you are in the program and you need to find EMS and things like that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been planning to be a vet for like a really long time. Was there I like that BVA place, the British Vet Association. Yeah, so like at what point did you decide you wanted to be a vet and you started doing all these work experiences?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's quite, I don't like it when people say like animals have always been my passion and things like that. I think it's really cringe.
Cliche.
But I think it is for me, that is kind of my answer, as much as I don't want to say it. I think just being young, I think I kind of faced a bit of kind of imposter syndrome at school, and kind of going through my kind of 4th year and kind of 5th year, I was like, I'm not going to get the grades, there's no point, like, and it was just kind of beating me down. But the minute I actually kind of got the grades through, that's when I was like, do you know what, I am going to be a vet. My mind kind of completely changed then. I kind of felt, do you know what, I can do this. But I think it was just for me as well. At my school, not many people went to go and be vets. Between my full year, the year above me, I think one person went and done veterinary medicine. There was no medics, no dentists. In my year, I was the only person who went and done veterinary medicine. So I think it was kind of having that, there wasn't many kind of people to look up to. It wasn't a common route to go and do that, which I kind of thought was difficult as well to see through. And obviously the school doesn't have as much experience in helping students apply for those kind of positions as well. So yeah, I think that's why the REACH programme, that kind of works hand in hand and kind of helps educate and kind of inspire kind of guidance teachers and teachers at school as well. Because they, in my experience, they have such a big impact on helping you with UCAS as well.
That's really good that you like had the REACH program and everything to help you through it.
Yeah.
Like, what would any tips and advice, and what would you say to, let's say, like your younger self, if you, when you were having imposter syndrome, like, you know, how do you get yourself through that? And
I think it is just kind of looking at the bigger picture, almost like, can I just take a step away back from your current situation and kind of look where you want to see you? I think inevitably there is going to be barriers, but it's just about kind of not dwelling too much on them, and kind of, instead of dwelling on the actual problem itself, kind of start focusing on the solution and how you're going to do it. So for example, if I thought I wasn't going to get the grades, instead of worrying about that, I could spend half an hour actually reading a book or reading notes, and that could help me go towards. I think it's easier said than done saying that, but I think it's kind of just definitely something to say to my younger self, which is like, don't worry, like, just if you put in the effort, I can always say what's for you won't go by you, and basically what's meant to be will be. That's kind of how kind of I live my life and getting into vet school.
Oh, that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, so the next section will be about student life at the University of Glasgow. Could you tell us briefly a bit about the course outline, and how did you find your year during the pandemic? And then we can talk about accommodation stuff as well.
Yeah, so Glasgow's kind of course is, we run a kind of 5-year programme which has 2 years of pre-clinical, 2 years of clinical, and then 1 year of professional. So kind of within the first kind of 2 years, you're learning the kind of the foundations of the course and the kind of underlying science and things like that. When you're going to go into 3rd and 4th year in your clinical phase, that's when you start to kind of learn more about kind of disease processes and diseases themselves, and like treatments and diagnosis and all that kind of stuff. And then that's when you start your clinical EMS as well. And then in 4th year, you get your last year of lectures. When you go into 5th year, which is your professional year, and there's no lectures during that year, and it's just all your rotations. So your kind of rotation year is kind of made up of core rotations, which is kind of compulsory, which every student must undertake. That kind of gives us an insight into kind of production animal, pathology, small animal hospital, kind of specialists, wipers, is our equine hospital. So we get a real kind of feel for kind of everything, and then we get to choose 2 selectives. And I think like Glasgow's got so many selective choices. You can go to like South Africa to do conservation work. Wow. You can go to California to do kind of herd health. I'm going to Morocco to do kind of equids. So I'll be working with like kind of donkeys and horses. That's the kind of more the kind of international selectives you can choose. And then you've kind of got more ones where you can go and work in kind of Edinburgh Zoo and kind of get things like that. Kind of the way it kind of works is the kind of university kind of pays for the educational experience, and then we kind of have to pay for our flights and whatever to get there. So we get the choice to do it.
Do you have a lot of international students at Glasgow?
Yeah, we've got quite a large international kind of student community in the vet school and at main university campus, which is great. There's so much diversity within the university, which is something kind of specifically that Glasgow's really kind of hammering on home right now with, which I really like. As a lot of staff actually kind of dedicated to and doing kind of extra training in diversity and inclusion to kind of help make the vet school a more inclusive place, trying to kind of increase representation from different kind of marginalised groups, which is really good. But yeah, there's a large international student community at Glasgow. We've got a lot of students from North America, Asia, and then kind of more kind of Europe. And then we have, I think there's more international students than UK students.
Really?
I think
wow.
I think that could be right. I'm not sure the numbers.
You mentioned the course outline. What about exams? So how are exams?
Yeah, so for exams, you can get more kind of clinical reasoning tasks based on a kind of case scenario, and you've got to work your way kind of through diagnostics, treatments, and then plan. So that's kind of what you can get examined on in kind of 3rd and 4th year. But in first and 2nd year, we kind of have the kind of sciencey exams, and we can get the data interpretation kind of aspect, and then we also have a kind of practical spot question, which I don't know if that's kind of unique to Glasgow, but we basically kind of walk into one of our labs and there's kind of different stations all around the room, and there'll be a cadaver or an image or an instrument, and there'll be 4 questions related to that specific station. So it could be a cadaver of a canine heart, and there'll be labels in it, and we've got to say like what valve is label 1, and we would have to like label that. And it's kind of 4 questions, kind of work a half mark each, and then you can get quick fire, so you can get a certain amount of time at each station you move around.
Steeplechase.
Steeplechase. So that's kind of practical spot, and we get that kind of first, second, third and fourth year, I believe. But the university right now are doing a lot of kind of feedback with the students to kind of see how kind of assessment is kind of going at Glasgow. So that's kind of one thing the university kind of like to improve on, is they always ask us for feedback. So I believe this year they're making a few changes, but they're always good at kind of consulting with students, seeing what the student wants, seeing what works for students and what doesn't, and then make changes based on that.
So what about the other aspect of student lives? Like, how's it like living in Glasgow? How much is the rent, and what's the
so we're quite lucky at Glasgow. We've kind of, in the first year, there's kind of a lot of student accommodation choices. If you want to, you can live in the West End, and that's where the kind of majority of student accommodation is. We also have a student accommodation out beside the vet school, so you've kind of got a good choice as to where you want to go. For me and a lot of other students, we kind of tend to live in the West End of Glasgow and then just travel out to the vet school. So it's about a kind of 10-15 minute drive from the West End to the vet school out in Anniesland. Or there's bus services, there's trains, there's lots of good transport lines. Kind of Glasgow are really kind of putting in a lot of cycle lanes and things, so it's really accessible to get to the vet school. And I think kind of having that living in the West End as well, it kind of gives you, for me, it kind of separates vet school as well. I like to kind of have that work-life balance where I kind of travel to vet school, do my vet stuff there, and then I kind of come home and not be kind of surrounded with vet stuff. And that's kind of how I wanted to do it. Everyone's kind of experience is different, and it's just how everyone shapes it. So rent, for me, I think you usually can kind of get, if you're kind of flat sharing, it's probably kind of about £475 to kind of £500 a month for rent, I would say. So it's kind of, it used to be cheaper, and you can get it certainly more cheaper than that, but the kind of prices are kind of starting to rise. I've kind of noticed this year with what people have kind of been telling me and what I've kind of been seeing online. So I don't know how that compares to other cities. I know a lot of other universities, they kind of go and live in kind of student houses at university. So kind of people do that if they kind of stay in the kind of Anniesland area. There's a lot more houses, where if you live in the West End, it's more like flat. So yeah, that's what I stayed in a flat kind of during my kind of past kind of 3 years. So yeah, the weather in Glasgow as well, it's not great, but it's all part of the experience.
It's full of sunshine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the sunniest place in the UK. Disclaimer, that's a fact. That's not a fact. But yeah, when it's sunny, it's lovely. But when it's wet, it's very wet. But it's nothing a waterproof can't solve. But yeah, I think something to add as well, and I don't know why this just sparked into my mind at this point. University also has a farm, which is pretty cool. So we've got Cocknell Farm. So the university sometimes they provide bus services, and they take us up and we do practicals up there on a kind of working dairy farm. It's got sheep and things like that, and a lot of research goes on as well. So you can kind of get involved in a lot of research tasks with academics on that farm. I think it just popped into my mind because the amount of wet afternoons we've spent on that farm, and that's why it popped in. Yeah, that's pretty cool what we have as well.
I was just wondering, on terms of animal facilities and things, do you have a small animal hospital as well, and like a horse unit? Yeah,
so kind of based on actually the campus where our teaching is, we have Wipers, which is the equine hospital. We've got the small animal hospital, which I believe does kind of out of hours first opinion and also specialist work. And then we also have a production animal unit right beside the lecture hall, so they kind of get a lot of cases there. So that's the kind of main animal kind of on campus stuff.
And how is it like getting around from your accommodation to all these facilities and to like the city?
Yeah, so they're all in the Glasgow estate. So it's a 5-minute walk to the small animal hostel from the lecture hall, 5-minute walk to Wipers from the lecture hall, 5-minute walk, well, it's literally around the corner for the production animal unit. So that's where the majority of your 5th year rotations are based. So it's not too much travelling in your 5th year. In 5th year, we also do the kind of the SSPCA, spay and neuter and shelter medicine and things like that. So that's kind of more the kind of external rotations. So yeah, it's kind of getting around Glasgow. There's good trains, there's good we've got the subway as well for kind of intercity travel, got our buses, and we've got the kind of good cycle lanes and things like that. So yeah, getting around Glasgow is pretty good. And then in the West End, we've kind of got our student union as well. So we've got 4 student bodies actually in the University of Glasgow. We've got the GUU, which is the Glasgow University Union. We've got the Queen Margaret Union, and then we've got GUSA, which is the Sports Association, and the Students' Representative Council. So I believe we're the only university in the UK to have 2 student bodies, social student bodies. So that's pretty unique as well to Glasgow, and the Freshers' Weeks are always amazing. And then you've also got the nightlife is really good. If you kind of type in West End into Google, you'll see lovely photos of Ashton Lane and all the kind of coffee shops and cocktail bars and things like that. So I think nightlife in Glasgow is definitely something which is fantastic, and something, if that's what you're into and that's what you want to experience, to kind of weigh in as well, because you're coming to university to teach, but you're also spending your days, weekends and nights kind of in the city. And it's really good as well, because I know a lot of international students who come over want to see a lot of Scotland as well, just for how beautiful it is. And Glasgow is such a good hub for kind of getting the trains, getting the buses to different cities. Edinburgh's only kind of 40-50 minutes away on the train. You can go up to the Scottish Highlands, go and explore our islands. It's such a good hub for exploring the rest of the country.
I wish I went to Glasgow now.
And that's the thing, it's really good. I see all my kind of international friends at university, and in the sports associations, there's tons. I never even knew half these sports existed until I came to university. There's so much to choose from, same with societies. But it's also kind of important to mention, we've also kind of got a kind of student body, kind of student society at the University of Glasgow specifically, called GovMA, which is the Glasgow University Veterinary Medicine Association. So they kind of run initiatives like Feel Good February for improving veterinary mental health, kind of lead up to exams. They hold different social events, Weekend of Dreams we call it, where we get our vet ball. We do a thing called Mr. Vet School, and we do tons of different events.
Mr. Vet School.
I don't know how much I can disclose. I don't know what your age limit is based on this YouTube channel, but it's a pretty, let's just say, messy night, which involves but yeah, if there's any alumni or other students from Glasgow, they'll know exactly what I mean when I'm talking about Mr. Vet School. But we'll leave it as a mystery and a reason to come. Government do so much for improving the kind of mental well-being at the vet school, and kind of getting people involved, and they kind of help fund veterinary specific societies as well, which is really good. And I think Glasgow as well, we're accredited kind of all around the world. I think if you study at Glasgow, you can kind of go anywhere in practice. We're ranked #1 in the Complete University Guide.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well done.
So yeah, we're thinking at the life at Glasgow is definitely something that's kind of really important to me. And we also do a thing called Big Vet Wee Vet, where that's where you can apply to kind of almost kind of get a mentor. That's a kind of a vet kind of in a couple of years above you, and it's just basically a point of contact, someone to ask if it's academic questions to, if it's social questions, like anything you can ask.
That's really good, because I feel like, especially when I started vet school, I really appreciated all the support that I had from like my seniors in the year above, just to ask any questions of like, because I would get lost so often when you start university. So it's really good that you guys have this kind of support. Yeah,
because I can have more of a kind of like informal official support as well. And I think it's kind of good, because the vet school is, even though it's a big it's kind of big establishment, the year groups aren't too big. 100, maybe kind of, it ranges from maybe like kind of 100 to 140 a year, I think, kind of off the top of my head. So there isn't many people in the vet school at all. You're kind of talking about 600 to about 700 people. So kind of meeting that one big vet would slowly kind of meet their friends and their friends and their friends, and you kind of slowly get to know everyone kind of in the vet school, which is really nice.
That's so good. Yeah, we covered pretty much everything we wanted to. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I think that's kind of mostly it. Student life's amazing. We've got some pretty cool alumni as well. We've got James Herriot himself.
He's from Glasgow. Cool.
He studied at Glasgow. We've got Laura Muir as well, you might have seen in the Olympics. Yeah, she graduated in 2018, so it's a pretty famous vet school we've got there. Yeah, we're established in 1862, so it's quite a privilege to kind of go to a university which has got this much history as well. We've got a lot of history with Edinburgh as well, the Dick Vets. We do a kind of notorious annual competition every year called Dick Day. That's where we have like kind of sports competitions with the Edinburgh Vets. Yeah. So I don't know if Callum touched on that.
No,
but yeah, it's Dick Day. So that's something we do. It's every year. They kind of do strive a lot in their sports as well. I think that's kind of, and also that's something good to touch on. Usually throughout the course, you kind of get Wednesday afternoons off. as
Oh,
well.
that's so good.
For kind of do a kind of de-stress, stress
Yeah.
busting exercise, go and play sports,
That's good.
go to a coffee shop, kind of take your mind away from veterinary.
And how long are your terms? Are they like 12 weeks terms? How long are your holidays?
We kind of run from kind of just September until December, and then from January until usually it's kind of April time, March kind of April time. Then we usually kind of have a kind of spring break, which is when a lot of students go lambing and things like that. And then we have our exams in May, and then we have our OSCEs as well. Yeah.
OSCEs are basically just like practical exams, right? Where they assess your
Yeah.
clinical exam or blood sampling, things like that.
The Glasgow course is very practical. Like from day one, we're taught skills like suturing, we're taught IV catheters, we're really thrown straight in at the deep end. I think it was in my first week, we walked into our first room with cadavers and we were practicing suturing.
Wow.
And it was pretty incredible to kind of think that I know a lot of kind of courses kind of don't get hands-on until kind of more later in the year. Yeah, we were kind of doing things like canine handling, equine handling, cattle handling, all of that in first year.
That's so good. Okay, lastly, 2 questions that I found. So one was, what kind of advantage does Glasgow give over other vet schools? The second part is about graduate students. Do you have any graduate students?
Yeah, so the advantages to Glasgow, I think, is definitely accreditation. Being able to practice all around the world, it just kind of gives students that choice, and it doesn't kind of tie them down to kind of one area. So we can go kind of anywhere, I think, kind of in Europe, kind of Australia, things like that. I think the only place we kind of have to do a kind of extra exam is the NAVLE for North America. So yeah, I think that as well is probably one of the main advantages. I think kind of having academics who are so high in their field teaching us as well. They're the best people to learn from. They are the best at what they do. So that's a real privilege. And then also the equipment we've got and the resources, the small animal hospital, then also just the kind of study environments we've got. We've got so many choices in libraries. We've got libraries in the vet campus specifically, but then we've also got the use of the libraries on main campus. So there's so many places to choose to go and study. The University of Glasgow are constantly investing. They just spent 90 million on a new learning hub in the cities in the West End. So that's just there's tons of stuff for us to go and use, which is so good. They're just constantly wanting us to have the best learning experience that kind of possible.
And then the second question was like, do you have a lot of graduate students?
I think we do have a lot of graduate students. A lot of the students that come from America, they've already done a degree as well, so they have done their first degree and then they come into vet school. I know a few UK students that have done a degree before and then went into vet school. And I think kind of one thing to take away from this, if you're watching and you're considering applying for Glasgow, is just drop the admins team an email or a phone call. The staff at the vet school are amazing. They are so willing to help anyone they can. So if you've got any questions at all, may that be fees, entry requirements, work experience, anything like that, you can find majority of it probably in the prospectus. But if not, just drop an email to the admins team and they'll be sure to answer it.
That's awesome. I'll put the admin email on as well so you can like find it easily. Yeah,
Definitely.
I guess that was pretty much it. Lastly, I guess, what kind of vet do you want to be? Have you decided?
I'm keeping my options open, but I kind of want to be kind of mixed vet, but I do have an awful lot of passion for kind of policy and kind of legislation work as well. So it's kind of something I want to kind of keep my options open to in the future. One thing I'm kind of really kind of passionate about is kind of like puppy farms and breeding and kind of licensing for dog breeding as well, which I think is only kind of been exacerbated with the pandemic and the puppy sales. So I think being in practice as well and doing clinical EMS, you see so much, and you kind of, for me, it feels like you might not have the chance to change it. But with policy and legislation, you can make a real difference. So for me, I think that's something that I'll kind of definitely consider for the future.
Oh, that's super awesome. Well, I think that's it for time. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. If any comments, I'll just pass the comments on to you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right. Take care, and thanks for watching the video. Bye.
Thanks, May.